The following presentation will attempt to reveal an ancient secret that biblical scholars have been asking for nearly 2,000 years. In the Gospel of John, chapter 8, we see Jesus appearing in the temple courts to teach the people. When a group of Pharisees brought a woman caught in adultery to Jesus, making her stand before the group. John 8:4-11. And they said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say?" They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus went down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Again he stooped down and wrote in the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left, with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then neither do I condemn you," Jesus declared. "Go now and leave your life of sin." The Pharisees here reminded Jesus of what the law of Moses commanded, that such women caught in adultery should be stoned to death. They already believed that Jesus violated the Sabbath, and they were looking for more reasons to bring him before the Sanhedrin or council for condemnation. So their plan was to entrap him in a most deceptive and resourceful scheme. At this moment, if Jesus were to uphold the law and judge her to be stoned, he would have condemned her to death and ultimately undo what he said he came to do. For they knew that Jesus claimed to seek and save the lost and bring sinners to faith in him, that they might receive the gift of eternal life through him. If he condemned her, he would have contradicted his entire ministry. He would not have been the friend of sinners. Many in the crowd would have lost their faith in him. Furthermore, the Pharisees would have succeeded in discrediting Jesus and his teaching before the crowd and his disciples. His saving influence would have been destroyed. Now, on the other hand, if Jesus simply forgives the woman and dismisses the charges, he would violate the law of Moses, making void the laws, making Jesus a sinner himself. Jesus knew precisely what these Pharisees were up to, and that this entrapment would be his downfall in the eyes of all who were watching. Now at this very moment, we witness what is perhaps the greatest and most ingenious yet unexpected moves he ever made. Without a word, Jesus bends down and begins to write in the sand. Now the problem is, the Bible never tells us what is written. The mystery only goes on to tell us that the Pharisees shockingly give up their quest and walk away. Yet very few people ask the question, why would they walk away so easily? They had Jesus cornered and on the ropes, right where they wanted him. Then they just walk away? We need to realize that some versions of the Bible omit this story altogether. It appears many did not like how it made the priests appear. What was the original writer trying to tell us? This mystery has been kept from us for far too long. John would not have omitted what the Messiah wrote. He was the Son of God. As an eyewitness, John recorded every detail of his ministry. That's why I believe that the original manuscript of John's Gospel actually did record what Jesus wrote. The story reveals a clue that what Jesus wrote had major significance that directly led to the Pharisees to give up their quest of entrapment. It does not say that the group left the scene altogether, but rather one by one they left. One by one? It appears that perhaps, just perhaps, Jesus was writing something to each of these Pharisees, something personal. We decided to examine some of the previously lost Jewish Christian Gospels, some written in the 1st and 2nd centuries, believed to have been used by these communities in places like Egypt and Ethiopia. They are the earliest texts that record this narrative. We found writings like the Gospel of the Hebrews, the Didascalia Apostolorum, and early Latin Syriac commentaries. Of course, these are not canonical writings. However, they may be key to uncovering lost details that were handed down to them from the original eyewitnesses. The Didascalia Apostolorum is generally attributed to the 12 apostles, written at the time of the Council of Jerusalem. It primarily focuses on the roles of church officials and liturgical practices. However, embedded in the text, we can find the very details of what was written in John chapter 8, and what it reveals is shocking. Get ready for this. Buried in the story of the woman caught in adultery, it says that Jesus knelt and wrote in the sand. On the ground, Jesus was writing the sins of the woman's accusers. So buried in the Didascalia, it only gets into it very briefly, but it is very revealing. It states, "He who sees the heart, and who himself is God, wrote upon the ground the sins of each one of them, and they went away ashamed." Now let that sink in. Jesus quietly wrote down each of the accusers and each of their private sins. One Pharisee sees his name written on the ground. Next to it, his secret lust, written in plain sight. Another sees his bribe exposed. Another, a dark deception, or a hidden affair. It is no wonder each of them dropped their stones and walked away quietly. Not only would it perfectly explain why the accusers immediately drop the charges and walk away, but it also appears to fulfill a prophecy found in the Old Testament that most people have overlooked. There is one 4th century church father called Jerome who brought it to light. He quotes the book of Jeremiah concerning the narrative in the book of John. Jeremiah 17:13 states, "O Lord, the hope of Israel, all that forsake you shall be ashamed, and they that depart from me shall be written in the earth, because they have forsaken the Lord, the fountain of living waters." The men who turned the woman in had already turned away from God in their hearts. They were using the law as a weapon, not as a guide. Through this, they were trying to trap the Messiah, not worship him. So, Jerome believed that Jesus was doing something prophetic and symbolic. By writing their names in the dust, he wasn't just making the most brilliant play in thwarting a decoy, but also fulfilling Jeremiah. And on top of all this, in Jewish tradition, having your name written in the dust was a sign of judgment and rejection. Their names weren't written in the book of life. They were written in the dirt to be trampled upon and blown away in the wind. Take care. God bless. Love you always.